Most people believe the dinosaurs vanished in an instant. But the truth is far more terrifying. Just 10 minutes after the asteroid struck, Earth became a place unrecognizable to anything that had ever lived here. Fire fell from the sky. Waves taller than skyscrapers rose from the oceans. And darkness smothered the world like a coffin lid. But before all of that came crashing down, there was one last peaceful morning. Let's return to that day, the final dawn of the dinosaurs' empire. 66 million years ago. Imagine an Earth utterly unlike the one we know today. There were no ice caps at the poles. The climate was hot and humid, and vast stretches of green forests covered the continents like a thick carpet of life. Towering dinosaurs strode proudly across the land, their footsteps shaking the ground, their roars echoing as if they were the background music of the age. Gentle giants grazed lazily on leaves, while their tiny offspring scampered close by. Far away, lurking in the shadows, predators with razor teeth and cold eyes observed every movement, waiting for their moment. It was a world bursting with life, a kingdom that seemed eternal, destined never to fall. And yet, above that clear blue sky, an unusual light appeared. At first, it was no larger than a star, a small glimmer in the daylight, but it grew brighter, larger, and more dazzling with each passing hour. This was no shooting star, no gentle moonbeam, but the herald of annihilation. A monstrous asteroid, as massive as Mount Everest itself, was hurtling toward Earth with unimaginable fury. At least 10 kilometers wide, weighing over 460 trillion tons. It was traveling so fast it could cross the entire United States in less than 4 minutes. And its destination, the Yucatan Peninsula, in what we now call Mexico. Dawn on this ancient Earth was unlike any dawn we know. Sunlight filtered through a thick, humid sky, painting golden rays across forests that seemed endless. On the plains, sauropods stretched their colossal necks into the canopy, plucking leaves as if plucking fruit from towers of green. Each heavy step left imprints in the damp soil, while small hatchlings struggled to keep pace with legs not yet strong enough for the long march. Farther out, herds of triceratops moved in groups, their horns glinting like polished blades in the morning light. They grazed peacefully, unaware that the heavens were preparing a death sentence. At the forest's edge, an ankylosaurus dragged its armored body, scraping its massive tail club against a tree trunk, peeling away bark as resin's sharp scent filled the air. In swamps and wetlands, duck-billed hadrosaurs waded in numbers, dipping their broad bills into shallow water, sending ripples outward across the still surface. High above, pterosaurs glided, riding the warm currents rising from the earth, their amber eyes scanning below for the faintest twitch of prey. The sky itself seemed eternal, a canvas of calm blue. No one, neither predator nor prey, had any sense that it would soon ignite into fire. The soundscape of this world was its heartbeat, the thundering of dinosaur feet, the distant call of hunters, the rustle of ancient birds, and the ever-present hum of insects. It was a rhythm that had endured for tens of millions of years. A slow, steady cycle, unshaken, unbroken, timeless. Life here believed it would go on forever. But sometimes, nature whispers warnings in subtle ways, warnings too faint for the giants of the earth to understand. That morning, small prehistoric birds grew silent, perching on branches with their heads tilted upward. Their sharp eyes caught sight of a stubborn dot still glowing in the western sky. A star that refused to fade in daylight. But unlike normal morning stars, this one was growing brighter, not dimmer. Yet the dinosaurs, unaware of celestial threats, paid no attention. By midday, the sun's light itself seemed odd. It was harsher, more blinding, as though strained through an invisible haze. Pterosaurs, soaring at higher altitudes, flinched and struggled, their great wings wobbling in unfamiliar thermal currents. On the ground, the forest still breathed in rhythm. Herbivores still ate, predators still stalked, hatchlings still played. The world went on. Only a faint smell, metallic, smoky, like heated stone, floated occasionally in the air, too faint for dinosaurs to notice. By late afternoon, the sky glowed redder than usual. Sunset painted the heavens with the color of burning copper. Across the horizon, a streak of white light cut the canvas like a scar. Hadrosaurs lifted their heads in unison, eyes glinting with unease. A triceratops gave a deep, resonant call, warning without knowing why. Even the mighty Tyrannosaurus paused, raising its massive head, its golden eyes reflecting the strange brilliance above. By nightfall, the dot was no longer a dot. It was a burning ember, leaving behind a trail like chalk drawn on the sky. Pterosaur flocks shifted in panic. Smaller birds scattered chaotically, all instinctively sensing what their minds could not comprehend. For the dinosaurs, it was merely a spectacle. For the planet, it was doom approaching. The following morning, the sunlight looked wrong. It was brighter, yes, but drained, as though filtered through a veil of glass. The forest remained lush. The herds still grazed, but something intangible pressed down upon the air. On the plains, sauropods did not follow their usual migratory path. Instead, they gathered in uneasy clusters. Long necks stretched skyward, their voices low, vibrating like a premonition. Along the shoreline, the sea behaved strangely. Tides pulled farther back than usual, exposing wide, glittering flats. Hadrosaurs stepped cautiously onto the revealed sand, leaving fresh tracks beside shallow pools. They had no idea that such retreating waters were the ocean's warning. A sign of waves soon to rise higher than mountains. High above, small sparks began to fall from the heavens. Not yet fire, but pinpricks of light like glowing dust. They shimmered briefly before fading into the dark. These were fragments, advance messengers of the mountain-sized rock that thundered closer by the second. In the forest shadows, a mother triceratops slowed her steps, her eyes scanning the sky as though feeling invisible pressure bearing down. She lowered her horns, pressed her young against her body. The air grew heavy, thick, almost difficult to breathe. On a distant ridge, the king of predators, Tyrannosaurus rex, raised its head and growled, not in triumph, not in threat, but as if the ground itself demanded acknowledgement of something greater than it. Every living thing felt it. Something immense was coming. That evening, the sun seemed swallowed by another light. A false sun appeared at the horizon, white and merciless, stripping color from the earth, turning the green forests into black silhouettes outlined in burning gold. Birds dived into bushes. Hadrosaurs bolted into the woods. Triceratops crouched low, shielding its calf beneath its massive body. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Winds stilled, waves halted, even the hum of insects disappeared. All of Earth seemed to pause, as though holding its breath. Then came the sound, at first a thin whisper, like a string pulled taut. It grew, louder and sharper, slicing through the atmosphere. The ground trembled faintly. Dust leapt from the earth as though shaken by unseen hands. Above, the white fireball expanded, no longer a point, no longer distant, but a mountain of flame tearing through the sky. And so it came down. Seconds left, a few beats of countless hearts, racing then slowing, stretched out like eternity. In that strange distortion of time, the dinosaurs lived their final calm. The false sun fell closer. The air itself bent, heated, ready to ignite. No creature on Earth could fathom it. No predator, no prey, no forest, no ocean, no mountain had ever faced such an intruder. And in just one moment more, the world of dinosaurs, so proud, so immense, so timeless, would be shattered. The asteroid entered the atmosphere like a blade, cutting through the sky at 20 kilometers per second. Friction ignited its surface, turning it into a blazing sphere of fire brighter than the sun itself. For a brief, almost surreal moment, the world had two suns, one steady and ancient, one furious and falling. Then came the strike. It slammed into the shallow sea near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. In that instant, energy greater than 10 billion atomic bombs detonated at once. The ocean did not splash, it vaporized. The seafloor cracked open, rock melted into fire, and a crater 180 kilometers wide and 20 kilometers deep tore into the planet's crust. Everything within sight vanished. Life, land, water, all erased in a flash. The shockwave exploded outward faster than sound could travel. Forests within 1,000 kilometers flattened instantly, trees snapping like brittle straws. Dinosaurs grazing in meadows never even saw the wave coming. One heartbeat they were alive. The next they were gone, swept away by a wall of pressure that crushed everything. Heat from the impact scorched the air to thousands of degrees. Sand fused into glass. Stones melted and sprayed outward in a fiery rain. Creatures near the epicenter disintegrated, their existence erased so quickly that no trace remained. Above the impact site, a column of molten rock, ash, and water shot into the stratosphere. Taller than any mountain, brighter than any lightning, it was Earth itself, hurled upward in fury. The shockwave continued, racing across the continents. Animals thousands of kilometers away felt the ground buckling beneath their feet. Herds of hadrosaurs stumbled, triceratops bellowed in confusion. Even the mighty Tyrannosaurus roared not as a predator but as a terrified creature facing something it had never known. The oceans rebelled. A wall of water, hundreds of meters high, rose from the Gulf of Mexico and surged outward. Waves taller than skyscrapers rolled toward coastlines with unstoppable momentum. Entire stretches of shoreline were erased, swallowed by a force too vast to comprehend. In the sky, burning debris rained back down. Rock fragments, still glowing from the heat of re-entry, streaked through the atmosphere like a storm of falling stars. When they struck the forests, they ignited wildfires. Whole regions burst into flame simultaneously, turning day into a world of fire and smoke. By now, the blast had circled much of the planet. In Asia, Africa, and Europe, animals looked up to see skies streaked with fire. Even on the far side of the world, the ground shook faintly, like the echo of a drumbeat too large to silence. Everywhere, forests ignited, dust and ash mixed with smoke, choking the air. Smaller animals fled underground, into burrows and crevices. Larger dinosaurs had nowhere to go. Their great size, once their greatest strength, now betrayed them. They stood exposed beneath the fiery rain, helpless as the forests they depended on burned. The seas frothed with violence. The mega-tsunamis radiated outward, crashing into shores across the Americas. Then beyond, islands disappeared beneath the water. Beaches vanished. Rivers reversed course, pulled by the unnatural rise of the ocean. Above it all, the sky itself glowed. The air shimmered with heat. The atmosphere bruised with colors of red, orange, and black. For the first time since life began, Earth itself looked alien. This was the moment when the full weight of the catastrophe settled upon the planet. The fiery rain intensified. Billions of fragments of superheated rock fell back from the heavens, striking the ground with the fury of endless meteors. The forests of North America, then South America, then faraway continents, all caught fire. The entire surface of Earth became a burning scar, lit brighter than daylight even in the depths of night. Animals fled, but there was nowhere to run. The heat grew unbearable. In open plains, herds panicked, stampeding blindly until exhaustion overtook them. In forests, flames leapt from tree to tree faster than any creature could escape. In rivers and lakes, fish writhed as falling debris boiled the waters. The air thickened with smoke and ash. Sunlight dimmed. For the dinosaurs, the age of abundance was over. 10 minutes, only 10 minutes, and already, the world that had lasted for millions of years was gone. Beyond the fires, beyond the waves, beyond the initial shock, the true terror was only beginning. The column of ash and rock thrown skyward had reached into the upper atmosphere. Dust and sulfur now spread with the winds, circling the globe. The fires below fed the skies above, pumping smoke into every layer of air. And as the fragments of rock finally finished their fiery descent, the world stood under a thick, black veil. Dinosaurs still lived. Many far from the epicenter had survived the shockwave, the heat, the fires. But their world had changed in a single breath. What had been lush and bright was now dark and burning. And as they wandered through this alien land, confused and starving, a greater threat loomed above them. The sun itself was vanishing, hidden behind a shroud that would not lift for months. And so, in just 10 minutes, the reign of the dinosaurs was undone. Not yet finished, but doomed beyond recovery. They did not know it yet. But the fire and waves were only the first chapter. Ahead lay the long night, the freezing darkness of a nuclear winter, when sunlight would vanish, plants would wither, and hunger would bring down even the mightiest. The age of dinosaurs had met its executioner. The age of mammals was waiting in the wings. After the fiery rain had ceased, the world sank into an eerie silence. No birds, no insects buzzing, no thunderous roars of giants. The sky was smothered beneath a dense veil of dust and ash. Blocking out the sun, day turned to night, and night grew darker still. Within days, the once vivid blue planet had become a suffocating gray shadow of itself. The absence of sunlight marked the beginning of an unimaginable winter, a nuclear winter. Global temperatures plummeted. Forests that had burned so brightly now stood as skeletal remains. Charred and broken, blanketed in ash, rivers cooled, lakes froze at the edges, and the oceans breathed out cold fog under a dim, alien sky. Dinosaurs, once lords of the earth, trudged heavily through a world no longer made for them. Hungry, bewildered, exhausted, they searched for food across landscapes stripped bare. Forests they had relied on for sustenance were nothing but cinders. Meadows and grasslands had become barren deserts of soot. Only weeks after the impact, food chains collapsed. Plants could no longer photosynthesize. Sunlight could not pierce the choking skies. Without plants, there were no seeds, no fruits, no leaves to sustain life. The great herbivores, the foundation of the ecosystem, fell first. Towering sauropods, unable to find foliage, staggered before collapsing under their own weight. Swallowed by the ashen earth, hadrosaurs wandered aimlessly, mouths open, yet nothing left to chew. Even the mighty triceratops, armored and fierce, succumbed to starvation. When the herbivores dwindled, the predators followed. Tyrannosaurus rex, once king of the plains, scavenged desperately among corpses. But corpses, too, ran out, stolen by competitors or consumed by the relentless decay of heat and ash. Hunger weakened the strongest hunters, stripping them of their dominance. Within months, 3/4 of Earth's species were gone. The age of dinosaurs did not end in a single instant, but in a slow requiem of darkness, hunger, and cold. And yet, even in hell, life found a way. Not the giants, but the small and unassuming ones would inherit the earth. Tiny mammals, ancestors of humankind, survived by virtue of adaptability. They required little food. Seeds, insects, or scraps of carrion were enough. They dug into the earth, finding safety in burrows and crevices, escaping the heat of fire and the bite of cold. Their fur insulated them against the creeping chill of the nuclear winter. Birds, direct descendants of dinosaurs, were survivors, too. Not all of them, but the smaller species that could feed on seeds and insects endured. Flitting through the gray skies, they would carry forward the legacy of their thunderous ancestors, a living bridge between the age of dinosaurs and the modern world. Other hardy survivors included reptiles, amphibians, turtles, and crocodiles. Their slower metabolisms, ability to hibernate or burrow, and reliance on less food gave them a fighting chance. As the titans perished, these smaller, overlooked creatures emerged as the quiet victors of the apocalypse. Time passed. Months stretched into years. Slowly, the ash settled, and the skies began to clear. The first faint beams of sunlight pierced the veil, falling on a frozen, barren planet. And then, from the scorched ground, the first green shoots emerged, tiny plants. Fragile yet defiant. Life returned, but it was not the same. The old order was gone. Forests grew again, rivers flowed, and grasslands reappeared. But the thunder of sauropods and the roar of tyrants were absent. Instead, the chirping of birds, the rustle of small mammals, and the cautious steps of new creatures filled the silence. Over millions of years, the small survivors evolved. Mammals grew larger, more diverse, more intelligent. From them, a new lineage emerged, one that would lead to apes, and eventually, to humans. The day the dinosaurs vanished was not only an ending but also a beginning. Without that asteroid, the great reptiles might have remained the rulers of Earth, and humankind might never have arisen. The catastrophe erased the giants, but it opened the door to intelligence, to civilization, to us. That is the brutal paradox of history. Destruction gives birth to opportunity, and the death of one age is the birth of another. So, what happened 10 minutes after the dinosaurs disappeared? It was the moment the Earth turned a page. In 10 short minutes, a dynasty that had lasted tens of millions of years collapsed. In the years that followed, darkness and hunger wiped away most of life. Yet, from the ashes, the small, the weak, And the overlooked survived, planting the seeds of a new world. And tens of millions of years later, from that world, humanity arose. We are the children of that catastrophe. A living reminder that life always finds a way, even when the universe itself seems determined to erase it. 66 million years ago, the dinosaurs vanished, but their story still shapes our own existence today. And if you've made it this far, it means you love exploring the mysteries of history and science as much as we do. So don't let this journey end here. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss the next story. Right finger now, tell me in the comments, if dinosaurs had never gone extinct, do you think humans would exist today? I'll be reading your answers. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next adventure.